update the farm. The Falcon 9 has started, but it's now in control.
50 seconds now until liftoff. That FTS you heard is flight termination.
SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX, this is resilient. Roger, go.
Go for launch, and at 37 seconds, the International Space Station flying over Kennedy Space Center.
Crew-1 for all.
Crew Dragon poised to go catch it. 20 seconds till liftoff.
Elon 15 seconds. Falcon 9 is configured for flight. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's the word we want to hear. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Plus 30 seconds into this historic mission, flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9. Stage 1 is preparing to throttle down. This is in preparation for max Q, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Stage 1, throttle down.
There's that call out for throttle down.
Power and telemetry continue to be nominal for the vehicle, now traveling at 262 meters per second.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
There's that call out the Falcon 9 is supersonic, and we will be passing through max Q very shortly, the largest structural road during descent.
Max Q.
And there's that call out. That Falcon has passed through max Q.
And we've just entered Stage 1 Bravo abort mode. That's going to take them through the end of the first stage burning just before second stage activates off the coast of North Carolina. Plus 1 minute and 40 seconds into flight, Dragon and Falcon 9 traveling 709 meters per second. That call that MVAC show is underway, the Merlin vacuum engine.
That was the call out of MVAC chilling, similar to what we saw on the first stage Merlin engine.
Incredible images there as Falcon 9 rocket is propelling the Crew Dragon capsule to the ISS. You have been listening to the official NASA feed and also bits of mission control. David Curley, you're at the launch site at Cape Canaveral. I can imagine no matter how many times you witness a launch, especially a night launch, it is always exciting.
This never gets old. It never gets old, Chris. I'm telling you what a fantastic launch. You know, we saw it go off at 0, and we could watch it for 17 seconds before we started to hear it. And then at about 30 seconds, I could feel my pants and my shirt just vibrating as it just rips apart the air as those 9 Merlin engines just take it up. There you go. We've had MECO and we've had separation, and this is the second stage, which is now firing up. And that's going to take them into the orbit they need to be at before they start to head to the space station. And pretty soon, SpaceX and NASA will flip these pictures, and we're going to watch. There you can see right there on the left side of your screen. That is the first stage. There are 4 grid fins. It is starting to come back down to Earth. There'll be a sonic boom, and it's going to land. All of this is a 9-minute trip uphill for the space capsule, and a little more than 9 minutes for that first stage to come back and land on the barge. You got to come next time, Chris. This is just awesome, and it looks like everything is going to plan so far.
I can't tell you how jealous I am that you're there in person, David Curley. On the left, as you said, we saw the Stage 1 separate that will return to Earth. On the right side of your screen is the Stage 2, that single Merlin rocket that is continuing to propel the Crew Dragon capsule. Christian Davenport, give us your thoughts.
It was amazing. I mean, as David said, you felt it in your chest. It lit up the sky. I was here on the balcony
with all of the VIPs, the vice president not far away. You could hear the cheering, the oohs and the ahs. It was just incredible. And now we're seeing, not just that second stage engine glowing, just, beautifully bright red, but we'll see soon that first stage coming back. Now, the recovery of that first stage, it's sort of a bonus to be able to reuse the stages. But in this case, recovering this first stage is particularly important, Chris, because they want to reuse this first stage, the Crew-1 first stage, in the Crew-2 mission, the next mission of Crews in March. So that's what's one of the big milestones that's going to be coming up next. And so far, everything is looking really good. It is just tearing a hole through the sky, Chris. Just awesome.
Unbelievable velocity there, as you can see from the meter on your screen. It will eventually get all the way up to 17,500 miles per hour. Garrett Reisman, I'd like to bring you in as a member of the SpaceX family. This has got to fill you with an awful lot of pride seeing the successful launch.
Awful lot of pride, but I'll be honest with you, also, I'm a bundle of nerves watching this. I think if you really understand how difficult this is and the physics involved, when there's people sitting on top of there, especially people that it changes the emotions of it tremendously. And, we passed through a lot of the big hurdles, maximum aerodynamic pressure. We had successful staging, lighting of the second stage. But until SECO, until the end of the second engine cutoff, and we're inserted into a good, stable orbit, my heart's still going to be in my throat all the way up to the end.
Well, Garrett, talk a little bit more about that. Give us some technical aspects of what we're looking on our screen right now, the Stage 2 engine.
So the Stage 2 engine is burning, and it's burning that bright, so that's how it rejects the heat. It doesn't have a cooling system in the nozzle itself like we have in the first stage. It does it just by glowing so red hot. And it's pushing really hard. They're going to get up to 4.5 Gs as they get towards the end of the second stage, which is about the same as you felt on Soyuz or Apollo, but considerably more than we felt on the space shuttle, which was limited to no more than 3 Gs. So they're going to feel this really good as they approach the end, and then suddenly at the second engine cutoff, if everything goes well, the engine will shut off instantaneously, and feel like they'll be propelled forward in their seat. But they're not. They're just no longer being held down in their seat, and they're going to be up in 0 G.
Leland, let's bring you in for your insight. At this point in the launch experience, how does that feel? You've now jettisoned that first stage engine. I know that you were in the space shuttle. How would that be different from this crew inside the Crew Dragon capsule?
Yeah, when we jettisoned the solid rocket boosters, the ride got a lot smoother. There was a lot of motion. My head was moving. I could barely see the screens. But at that 2.5 minute mark, the solid rocket boosters jettisoned, got smoother, and then we went through a throttling point where we throttled down to 3 Gs because you can't exceed 3 Gs or the structure will come apart. And so we went through that. And then, I'm thinking right now about the resilience is going to space. And we've gone through these pandemics and all these things. And these guys are an example of what humanity looks like going to space. And that's what I'm feeling so much pride and so much optimism about for the future of humanity with resilience and this crew.
And as we cross the 18,000 kilometers per hour mark, we've reached that entry burn. Peggy, I'd like to bring you in. Give us an idea of what the crew is looking at right now. What sort of view do they have outside the Dragon capsule, if any?
Well, right now, they're probably still enough on the dark side of the planet that they're only seeing maybe city lights if they can see out those windows, but probably not even that at this point. But interestingly, they'll be coming into a sunrise here shortly, and I think that's always impressive that, you fly into the sunrise at traveling very quickly, and it's amazing to come across and see that light come into the vehicle.
And Mike Massimino, at this point, Victor Glover is probably having quite the experience being his first time into space. Can you relate to him, and what was your first launch into space like?
Well, I think, I can absolutely relate to Vic. I'm really happy for him. He is really excited, I can guarantee it, and elated of what's going on, but it also is kind of a blur. And it was so new going into space for the first time that it went by so quickly that it made me really want to do it a second time. So I was looking forward to my second flight even more than the first one.
And just before we cut to the shot of mission control, you could see that second stage Merlin engine, the glow kind of wore off a little bit as we had that second stage engine cut off there. So soon there'll be that separation as the Crew Dragon capsule goes into orbit. Chris Davenport, please weigh in.
Well, we're going to watch the first stage coming back to land. This is normal where it gets cut out because the engine is on the camera, but we'll see the smoke clear. And there it is, successful landing of the first stage. But perhaps more importantly, we have a nominal orbital insertion. We just heard that. That means that the spacecraft is in the second stage or in a good orbit. You see that second stage engine has cut off, Chris. So far so good from launch through first stage and second stage separation, and they're landing on the drone ship, which is just absolutely remarkable. I have to say, these guys at SpaceX are getting pretty good at what they're doing, and there we have a view of the crew inside. They look happy and healthy, monitoring the health of the spacecraft, communicating with the controllers on the ground, checking their trajectory, checking all the sensors, making sure that they are okay. There are touch screens inside the Crew Dragon spacecraft. You can see that it's like an iPhone. And their gloves, this is pretty cool, their gloves will work on those touch screens. So you see the astronauts in there in those cool, sleek spacesuits, Chris.
Yeah, that's a really cool shot of inside the Crew Dragon capsule. And David Curley, we keep hearing this word nominal over and over again. That, of course, means everything is going normally and according to plan. Well, let's talk a little bit about that Falcon 9 rocket returning to that barge. It's almost like a magic trick. You know, the smoke clears, and then there it is. Incredible technology.
It is, and I just was loving watching Shannon Walker there in the bottom left of your screen with her arms crossed. She just went ahead and started working on her pad, but she looks just so relaxed. And I got to tell you, we got to see the entry burn of that first stage coming back down. It was like, from our vantage point, right over the countdown clock, and we could just see this little red dot out there, and then the burn stopped and it disappeared, and then we got to see the landing. And they are the three most important words for this stage of this mission. And Chris Davenport just talked about it, nominal orbital insertion. They are where they're supposed to be. You could hear them every minute getting an update about the trajectory. This is, everything's gone the way they want. Two big issues coming up, two big milestones. The things that worry SpaceX and NASA. That'll be docking in about 27 hours. They will get to the space station in about 24, 25 hours, and then dock at about 27 from right now. And then they'll be there 6 months, and hopefully Crew-2 will come up a couple of weeks before they come home. But then the next important part for them is reentry and splashdown, which is supposed to come in the spring. It looked like it went without any problems whatsoever, and I got to tell you, remarkable scenes down here. It was great to see that first stage coming back down here by the Cape. Chris?
Very, very cool. And I believe we're seeing the stage 2 separation there on the right side of the screen as mission control continues to monitor the mission. Garrett Reisman, I want to bring you back in and ask you specifically about the Falcon 9 rocket. Now that it has returned safely to Earth, I believe it landed on a barge in the ocean. What happens now? Do they immediately go out and retrieve that rocket?
Yeah, we prefer to call that the autonomous drone landing ship, but because it's fancier than a barge, you know. But anyway, that barge will go back to port, and they'll take a big crane and pull that rocket off, and then they'll send it back to the hangar and get it ready for its next mission. So that is something that SpaceX now has done over 50 times. It's really remarkable how it's getting so commonplace, really, even though I never get tired of watching it. But overall, the other thing to add is just that I'm so pumped and excited now. My heart rate's starting to come down, and I'm just really happy for the Crew-1 crew that they got this ascent phase of flight behind them. See that the trunk separate, that's expected. The next hurdle will be opening the nose cone. which should be coming up soon. I can see in this view that with those camera views, it's still closed, but it'll open soon, and they'll be on their way to the space station.
Gary, congratulations to you as a member of SpaceX on a successful launch. Now, Leland, if they had blasted off yesterday, it would have taken them only 8 hours to get to the space station, but now this is going to take 27 hours because of the positioning of the ISS. So they've got quite a while now before they get there to reflect. How will they spend those additional hours on their way to the International Space Station?
Well, it's almost a day, Chris. And again, as Garrett said, I'm elated, and I'm over the moon thinking about them and going to space. But they're going to be turning their spaceship, their rocket ship, into their living quarters and getting out of their suits, doffing their suits, and putting on maybe some shorts and some polo shirts, and just kind of relaxing a little bit, and then getting some of the things that they have in order and in place. And then thinking about, if the malfunctions happen, if something happens with the automatic docking, how do they take over and dock to the space station? So we're always thinking about what is that next failure that can make us have to go into action from manual control or to take control of the situation.
And as David Curley pointed out earlier, the crew looking very, very relaxed. You can see them having raised their visors now, just kind of casually looking at the screens. Everything is going according to plan. Peggy, at what point during this journey to the space station does the crew and the feelings of those G-forces during launch, when do they start to dissipate? Are they starting to feel more normal right now, or are they still feeling the effects of the launch?
You're going to want to take a look out the window.
Actually, no. Pretty much as soon as the main engine cuts off, they're going to be relaxed and in that zero gravity mode, as you could see in there. They're still all strapped in, so they can't move yet, and they won't really have that sense of zero gravity until they unstrap and get out of their suits. So that'll be the big transition time, and they'll do that once they've done all the final checks to make sure they're good to go toward the station.
Right, Mike, let me get back to you about what the astronauts might be seeing. Do they have any sort of view out the windows of the Dragon right now?
I think that's going to be the number one priority at this point. After you get there and the engine's cut, and I was, as you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, I was on the middeck, did not have a window. But as soon as we got the main engine cut off and I was able to unstrap and get my bearings, I floated up to the flight deck and looked out the window. And we had a very early morning flight on my first, a very early morning. It was still dark out when we launched. We launched into the sunshine. And by the time we got to that main engine cut off and I was able to get up to the window, we were over the Indian Ocean, and it was just absolutely magnificent, the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. So I think that's going to be priority number one once they get a chance to gander out there and take a look, especially for Victor being his first flight.
I was going to say, I can only imagine what Victor is experiencing right now. So cool. Christian Davenport is on the balcony at Cape Canaveral, had a wonderful view of the launch. Christian, give us a status update.
Yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful launch and all is going well. This is exactly what we had hoped for. It seemed like we were getting a lot of curveballs thrown at us. The weather, the pandemic, the engine issues, the seal on the hatch, but this is what you hope for. This is all good, and I can't help but think how this is just such a momentous day for SpaceX, and what an incredible story for this company that Elon Musk founded in 2002. I mean, initially, his whole thought was to generate a lot of interest in space and just get people enthusiastic, as he says, get people fired up about space so that NASA would get more money to help fund a Mars mission. And now, fast forward all of these years, and Elon Musk and SpaceX are the provider of transportation to space for the United States government. They were once sort of a Silicon Valley startup that is now a mainstream player, alongside with Boeing, which is the other provider in this commercial crew program. They've had some problems. Everyone thought they would be the ones launching people first. They would be the ones to be certified first. But no, instead it's Elon Musk and SpaceX. He's controversial. He's brash. I think a lot of people have various opinions about him, but you cannot deny what they have been able to accomplish. And tonight is yet another example of that, Chris.
Thanks, Christian. And David Curley, I imagine that maybe they're not breathing an entire sigh of relief at Mission Control, but they're at least able to exhale. The launch went very, very well. The mission is off to a great start. What's the atmosphere down from where you're standing?
Oh, there was a lot of applause as they got into their nominal orbital insertion. And what's happened now is that the capsule, which was headed up into space